Hey, it's Sue, and I'm back with another alphabet challenge video. This is the letter G. Let's get right into it. So, after putting off this audio for who knows how long, I am finally here. And of course, for the letter G, I had to pick Gwen Stacy. For this drawing, I tried a couple different poses, but I kept having trouble with them, and they just didn't look quite right. So in the end, after quite a bit of struggle, I end up going for a pose that we see, and I think it's the first movie, where she's, swinging. You'll see it in the thing. I can't describe it. She's like leaping in the air. I, of course, still had trouble with the sketch because I don't draw super actiony poses a lot. And the hand gave me trouble because it's like flipped down, and you got the hand, the go web go pose going on. But after I got the sketch in place, it was a lot easier to go in and add the rest of the details. I did draw her with her mask off. It's windy outside because it is Gwen Stacy I'm drawing, not necessarily Spider-Woman or Ghost Spider, so I had to make sure she had her mask off just to make sure, there was no confusion in who I was drawing. I did have a little bit of trouble with the face, and I don't think it's the best face I've ever drawn, but I really still enjoyed drawing this picture, especially the hair. The pink in it was just so much fun. I don't usually draw like half dyed hair. So I started the second sketch, which would have been a line art if I hadn't had to clean up the rest of the pose a little bit more. And I do realize her suit is a little bit different than how it is in the second one, because instead of having like the gloves of the pink and blue web things, she just has little triangles on her thing. And the triangle on the other arm ends up on the other side because of the way her arm is flipped, and it does look a little odd. But I didn't know she had a different style for her web design, so I didn't change it. Then I went in and actually did the line art, which honestly, I could have just copied the head and stuff from the other sketch, and that would have worked. But I didn't, and it didn't do much in the time frame. I spent a decent amount of time on this. I think it was like an hour to an hour and a half. While in my last video, I only spent about 30 minutes on the drawing, so it is quite a big time difference, and I do think this shows. I wanted to play around a lot with the lighting since I enjoy doing that. I really enjoyed the Spider-Verse movies. I would have drawn the Gwen Stacy version from The Amazing Spider-Man, but I can't look at her without wanting to cry because you know what happens at the end. I don't want to say anything to anyone who doesn't know, but yeah, it's heartbreaking, and now I can't watch the second movie, without wanting to cry. So yeah, I'm just going to not draw her and draw the one who isn't dead. Though they are kind of leading up to her dying, and it's making me a little bit nervous. I really like her design because she has the ballet shoes, and I like how graceful she is, kind of like a dancer when she does her spider moves. It does show contrast between her and Miles, who's a little bit more, classic boy Spider-Man. But at this point, I had finished the line art, and I quickly filled in the base colors. And then added a background, and the perspective here is whack. Okay, it does not make sense. But I do end up fixing it a little bit more when I get lazy with the background and decide I don't want to bother with perspective. I should have done perspective lines, would have made my life a whole lot easier, and I do know how to do it. I just didn't, and now I kind of regret it because it would have made this take a lot less time. I drew these buildings in a style I saw in a background for Rise, where they had reflections in the windows, and they add a lighter color to the bottom of the building and a shadow to the top. And I just really like how that looks, so I kept that. But of course I like most things about Rise, so it's understandable. The thing that makes the perspective really look whack is the fact that all these buildings in the back, other than the front one, are in like a 3/4 angle, but that one's like straight on. And this one's also kind of wonk, like it's tipping, and I could not get it to look right when I untipped it, so it stayed tipped. I ended up changing all these buildings back here to look more like the one in front, because nobody wants a wonky building. And plus, I was thinking it wouldn't be that noticeable when I put it back in front, but like then I checked and I'm like, oh crap, you can really tell that doesn't look right. So I had to change it. I don't love drawing backgrounds, but I'll do it if I have to. Yeah, see, it does not look right. Even if I blur it, it's not gonna really change. But as you can see, I kept going, so obviously I wasn't that deterred by the wonkiness of it. When I do change it though, it does look a lot better, and we're gonna skip to that because I've run out of things to say. So let's go there. Looking in the background of another Rise reference, I noticed there was a skyline with more buildings there to make the cityscape look more filled. So I just added something like that in there, and again, you can see I was kind of lazy, especially with that one building on the left because it's like got a wonky window. Then I just continued to begin shading, and I really enjoy shading. I did shade in some of the white line art just to make it look actually in shadow, because the white would kind of, make it look like it was shiny. And I used a blue color because it's more city and nighttime, so therefore the warm lighting wouldn't be quite as prominent. And I just kind of did a basic shading, cleaned up any areas I needed to, and I changed the shading a little bit warmer for the skin, just so she didn't look like she smudged dirt on her face, which is a problem I had with when I drew Captain America. And after I finished the first shading layer, I moved on to do a second shading layer like I usually do, and I also added a highlight because I wanted to make it look like she was moving towards like a building with a light shining on it, or maybe a advertisement you see in New York. And I made sure to try and define the planes of her legs and body just so she didn't look like she was a 2D object. And I do end up doodling on the picture in the end to add like a little bit more of the style from the Spider-Verse movies, so it doesn't quite look like she's less 2D, but at least she doesn't look completely flat. I added a airbrush shadow to one side to kind of deepen it up, and this was another picture that I just felt like it wasn't quite popping the way I wanted it to. So again, I go back to my filters because I love them and they make everything so much easier. It feels kind of like cheating, but like I don't care that much. I just don't want you guys to think I'm not acknowledging that I'm using filters, because I'm very aware that filters are kind of cheating. It's okay, a lot of artists use them. I added a shadow to the background to push it further into the distance, and then I moved on to more rendering. I looked for screen tone dots, but I realized you had to just search dots, and I use those as kind of like in pop art and in comics they'll sometimes add those, and so I put them in here, and I changed the color of them to a purpley color, so they would just kind of be like an effect on there. I added some white lines around her, kind of like outlining, more like action lines. And I also took a picture of her, and like I saw in a fan art of her, where it was like almost like the chromatic abrasion thing, but only like half the chromatic abrasion, so just chromatics. I don't know. I do add some of the action lines I was talking about. I saw dots on one, tried that. No, that just looked weird. So, went back to this. I also saw one where they took her little black thing and made like screen tone dots on it. So I tried that. Just looked kind of weird, like she wasn't, yeah, didn't look right, so I got rid of it. Added some shinies to her shoes because they are more of a silky texture. There's the action lines I was talking about. Added some little doodles around just to make it look a little bit more comic-y. And then I saved the image change the composition just a little bit by zooming in. And then, of course, this was another one that I really, really liked, the anime background filter on it. But I didn't want to just change it to the anime background filter. So I kept looking around. But eventually I came to the conclusion that I would just lower the opacity over it, under the line art though. So it wasn't quite, because this looks really, really bright. So I end up changing it so I just bring in the normal composition for the anime background, and then just make it like a filter by placing it over the top on a lower opacity. I signed the picture and it was done. This is my drawing of Gwen Stacy. I really enjoyed doing this illustration and hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Bye!